Welcome back to another battle report, folks. We're back onto the Axis Allies book, and I'll be using Romanians again. Now, the last game, my Motorised Infantry Romanian Panzer IVs managed to hold out in defence against Lawrence's steamroller Soviet T-34s. In this game, I'm going to be doing the attack, and I'm going to use the green infantry, supported by Soviet tanks, and we'll see how they do against Peter's determined Grenadier defence. Come back to the channel, Peter. I'm going to be taking you on with my Romanians today, and you're going to try and hold them off with some Germans. So last week, you may have seen I used the better quality Romanians. In this game, I'm going to be using just ordinary rifle company. So I've got two platoons of these ordinary rifles who are confident. So they are aggressive, confident, green, unless I roll better on the peasant army rule. So I've got two platoons of 7 plus a Faust, a Shrek, and a 60mm mortar. Then a platoon of 4 ordinary mortars plus the company command. Right, that's my core formation. It's not very big. Supporting that, I've got 2 batteries of 75mm artillery, a platoon of 3 of the 75mm anti-tank guns, so they're quite hard hitting long range. And though it's probably the worst table I could have put together for them, a platoon of cavalry. So we'll see how they do. And backing them up, I've got a Soviet formation, which is 2 platoons of 4 T-34 Hero 85s with a company commander 1. And that's a good split. That's 41 points. If I had to split it, 41 points in tanks and the rest in infantry. So we'll see how they play. What is it you're bringing today to butt my head up against?
Well, I'm afraid it's going to be fairly boring again, Frank, and I'm bringing some Panzer Grenadiers with me. Again, from the German Bagration book. It's along with the HQ, I've got 2 Panzer Grenadier platoons of 7 MG42 teams, and I've added 1 Panzer Shrek to each of those. I've also got a Panzer IV platoon of 5 Panzer IVs. I've also got 4 12cm mortars, 4 SMG 34s, and 7.5cm tank hunter platoon of 4 Pak 40s. They are all within my formation. The support, I've got 3 15cm Nebelwerfers and 1 Panzer III OP. I've brought a couple of command cards. One is lucky, and the other one is machine gun nests for my machine guns, just to make them a bit harder to kill. So that's my force.
Okay, right, it's going to be a tough nut to crack. It usually is, these kind of lists. So I'll go over with the camera and show the viewers what the lists are like and go through a couple of the Romanian units they might not be familiar with, and then we'll get on with the game.
Good, okay.
So the Romanian list, rather large looking, but I don't know how fragile all these pieces will be. This is the core formation here, the core Romanian formation. You've got company command, 2 platoons of 7 bases plus a Shrek and the 60mm mortar, and then a platoon of 4 of the 80mm mortars, the medium mils, whatever calibre they might be. Supporting them, 3 Takrisitas. Sorry, I keep calling them that. That's what the version 3 name was, the M43s. That's the 75mm, and then anti-tank guns, that is. And then I've got 2 batteries of 4 artillery. These are the 100mm figures, but we're using them as 75s. The cavalry, I've also got a unit of infantry that I can use if they get on and dismount and don't all die. And then the Soviet tank formation Hero T-34-85s for the armoured element. So there you go, the less well trained, at least on that side, Romanian option. So Peter's list, it's a very, very big corps formation. The only thing not in it is the Nebs at the back. You've got a company command with a Faust, 2 platoons with a Faust and a Shrek. HMGs are going to be in nests, heavy mortars, Pak 40s and a nice big chunky platoon of 5 Panzer 4s. And the wee Nebs at the back. So in terms of formation, it's very strong. It's a good, solid, defensive kind of Panzer Grenadier list. Romanian cavalry are careful, confident, trained. The peasant army rule gives them a last stand of 5+, defend the homeland and assault of 3+. The peasant army rule, however, allows them to get a 4+ last stand and a 3+ training level. Makes them veteran basically if you roll a 5 or a 6. Now they are armed pretty much the same as other Romanian units. The main difference between them and ordinary Romanian infantry is the speed. They're a little bit quicker across terrain, like terrain dashes, but when it comes to cross-country or road dash, they can move up to 20 inches, which is significant. They can also launch assaults at 6-inch range. So that gives them a potential, a very, very, very long reach, where they could charge straight into something and immediately assault it. Of course, it has to be ready to receive the assault, or you'll just be flinging them into machine gun fire and getting them killed. But altogether, they're a very useful addition to the Romanians if you consider carefully how you're going to use them. Romanian rifle formations are aggressive, confident, green. The last stand is 5+ due to the peasant army rule, but they do have a 4+ assault due to the defend the homeland rule. Using the peasant army dice roll at deployment, you can get a 4+ last stand and a 4+ training level if you get a 5 or a 6. They are armed with rifle MG teams, so that's a rate of fire of 2 stationary, 1 moving. And you can add Panzer Fausts and Panzer Shreks to these guys. 1 Shrek, 1 Faust, so they can be quite tough when it comes to shooting at tanks. Assaulting might be an issue with their unadjusted 4+ hit, but that's still not too bad. And you can add a 60mm mortar, which could be quite handy if you can get a training level of 4+ instead of 5+, you know, in your dice roll. That could be quite handy for pinning and dealing with enemy gun teams and such likes. Today's mission is Dogfight. I don't think we've done this one recently, I certainly can't remember it. It's a fairly standard kind of setup. You can see defender in one half, attacker in the other half. So Peter, who's going to be the defender, will have to decide where he wants to defend and where he wants me to attack from. Now, special rules on this are ambush, deep, scattered, delayed reserve for the defender, and minefields. Victory is standard, you know, I've got to end the turn within 4 inches of an objective with no defending teams within 4 inches. The defender can win the game from the end of their turn 6 if there are no attacking team within 8 inches. And you can see the scattered reserves here, where they could possibly come in. It's always a bit of a difficulty for the defender when they've got scattered reserves, but in this mission, because it's across the shorter table edge, it's a lot easier to get these scattered reserves to concentrate where they need to be, and it could actually set up a nice flank attack on the attacker. So it's, you know, a silver lining to that cloud, if it is even a cloud. So there you go, folks. The mission is Dogfight. So there you go, folks. That's us deployed. We'll start with the objective markers. Behind that church, that's where Peter put his, so I put mine over in the far corner just to stretch his resources. he strung a line of minefields across here because this is obviously far forward. In reserve, by the way, he's had to put his heavy mortars and his tanks and his company command. Wasn't a perfect split for the 60-40. So Peter's going to give some thought to that. There's ranged markers everywhere for me. We'll see what's relevant. There's like mortars, single mortars, artillery. We'll see what's relevant when the game starts. So there's a platoon infantry in this area here, centred around that bit of the crossroads. Platoon infantry here, kind of working around these templates. One of them got line of sight over the minefields, plus 2 machine gun nests. Then there's 2 other machine gun nests, one here and one here. And the nebs are behind the church, quite neatly out of line of sight, and there's the observer. Pack 40 is an ambush. So I've got to try and get myself through this morass, which is going to be pretty damn difficult, to be honest. So I've got artillery here with some good cover behind the hill, mortars in amongst that lot. There's a platoon infantry there, another platoon here, company command in the middle. The anti-tank guns are just kind of sitting at the back saying it's going to take us forever even to get into the game. They don't have a firing position really I could put them in. I could start them on the hill, but that would just definitely draw down artillery fire on them, everything over there. So there's artillery there and cavalry there. And then in terms of my peasant army roll, I remembered to do it, nothing for them or them. The company command got the 5 or 6. The platoon infantry beside them got the 5 or 6, and as did the anti-tank guns, the artillery over there, and the cavalry. So they've got a better last stand now and a better skill rating. So that's us deployed. Oh, of course, tanks are sitting up there. That's us deployed, we're ready to go. So I'll clear everything up and come back at the end of Romanian turn 1. Romanian turn 1. So, in terms of movement, these guys moved up, tried to follow me, but didn't. Company commands moved up behind them. The guys managed to follow me. They're all in that house saying, please drop bombs here. These guys are tactically moved up. They're kind of wheeling their guns up, wondering what they're going to be doing. Everything else stayed put. And in terms of shooting, this little mortar ranged in here. Didn't do any damage to that, but it's now ranged in. The other mortars laid a smoke barrage. That's what they did. How did I miss that? One of the 75 batteries didn't range in, but another one did over there in that corner. Managed to get that nest. This nest was absolutely clobbered by T-34s. They split the fire between the two. So I've killed the nest and I've got some artillery down where I need it to be, and the smoke barrage is there just because I kind of guess there's some kind of ambush on its way. And I've also got a ranged marker in that field, so if most stuff that could pop an ambush in that field would be under the template to begin with. That's kind of what I'm thinking. But there you go, very, very constricted route of attack because of this big lump of buildings and shell craters. But over to Peter for his turn 1. Peter's turn 1, no movement. Any pinned nests unpinned. He's thought a lot about ambushes. You know, there's maybe running out of good ambush positions, and I'll zoom in. That field there was a suitable ambush position, but my ranged in marker would mean his guns would instantly be under artillery fire. So he decided to hold off and keep that ambush back. There could be plenty of other opportunities, and my tanks do have a restricted path forward. So in terms of shooting, that really just he kept his nest gone to ground. He wants to keep them as safe as possible. And in terms of shooting, it was just his nebs who ranged in on this house. Got loads of hits, but I managed to make all my saves. But if they don't unpin, they're going to be in trouble. So over to me for my turn 2. Romanian turn 2. So those guys didn't unpin. In terms of other movement, these guys, so what they did was I left some there and spread the rest out of the template. So he's either going to have to shift or stick or twist, basically. These guys move forward, and the cavalry edged up, but outside the range of the surviving HMG nest. Then in terms of shooting, I just concentrated on HMG nests, and I think he might even have managed to kill him, that single mortar. And then over there, loads and loads of fire, including another smoke screen. I've got one left. But loads of fire over there and templates interlinked. There was lots and lots went in there, and eventually I got them with T-34 85s. That's how long it took. So it's taken ages, but at least I've opened up that flank in terms of my infantry not getting machine gunned to death, but they may be getting nebbed to death. So over to Peter now for his turn 2. Peter's turn 2, there wasn't really much options for an ambush, mainly because of that smoke screen again, but I am running out of smoke screens. Not really any movement, motivations or such like, so it was like stick or twist. Clobber those guys or try and lift it and bring it down, so he stuck with them. He managed to get 2 hits, one of which I failed, but he failed his firepower, so they're okay, no casualties but still pinned. So over to me for my turn 3. Romanian turn 3. So the infantry that were pinned in that house there, unpinned, and have moved up, followed me to get out of the template. I had to move the company commander over so they could get a nice wee reroll. But they're kind of split up in 2 groups at the moment. Cavalry moved up, not the full whack because they had to get over the hill first. Apparently horses can't go uphill or downhill. And these guys are still wheeling up, wondering what the hell's going to happen. He's moved up so he can try and get some more targets. Then in terms of shooting, there wasn't a lot. I did smoke again, that's my last smoke. My last cigarette, so to speak. And I think now managed to, attempted to range in on that guy without success. And they did some shooting, got lots of hits, but no, 3 failed save, but no successful repeat firepowers on it. So that keeps that nest alive. Gives them something to worry about. But basically, this is it. I'm basically trying to hammer in there, but I've got to get all the way to there. So I don't think I'm going to do it. My stuff's spread everywhere. It's quite a brutal table. But we'll see. Peter's going to be rolling for reserves as well. Scattered reserves. So they could be coming on anywhere. We'll see what happens. Peter's turn 3. Rolling for reserves, but nothing this turn. He decided no ambush too, but that's just waiting in the wings now. I've used all my smoke. So he'll be able to ambush me at his leisure. Nothing much else really happened that turn. He's not got a lot of assets on the table. He moved his... He moved the ranged in marker. Well, he rearranged in over here. It was only going to get a couple of bases, but he tried it in the hope that he would get hits and a pin, and he managed to get 2 hits, no kills, but a pin. He wants to stop these guys moving forward. He could have clobbered these guys, but they're more of a threat to him. So that's really all that happened that turn. Now I've run out of smoke. Running out of space too. We'll see what happens in my turn 4. Remember, turn 6 is a critical turn in this game. Romanian turn 4, so everything was fine in terms of motivation, in terms of movement. These guys here are clambering into these buildings. The follow me didn't work. They're kind of stretched out all over the place. But they're up there. Cavalry have moved up, looking dramatic, but doing what? The question is. The T-34s have moved. I tried to get them off the road, but I failed one cross-check, believe it or not. So there is one that could potentially be ambushed in the open, you see. If they were on the other side of the hedges, it would be quite useful. The other guys have moved around here. He can only ambush me in one place. He may well get Panzer 4s coming on from reserve as well. But I'll have to deal with that. In terms of shooting, I managed to get my 75 mils ranged in here and here. Got a few hits but no casualties, but I'm ranged in there now. So that'll help clear the way. And then over here, this wee mortar managed to range in but didn't get a kill. The other mortars missed. These guys moved out. We'll try to do a follow me with the company command to help them, and they went, no, we'll stay here in the open instead of running into the wood, thank you. These guns are continuing to move up. The mortars didn't range in. So I'm kind of getting where I need to be, but I need to keep pushing and pushing and not stopping. Otherwise, I'm just going to run out of time. But there's 2 days for reserves coming up, and I would expect an ambush too. German turn 4, no reserves this turn. Ambush popped here. 3 aiming that way, 1 aiming over there. The infantry over there unpinned. And then in terms of movement, nothing really. These guys got hit. Well, they took all the casualties from the Nebs. But they also got shot at very badly by him and by him. More importantly was the ambush. The ambush only missed twice, 2 dice out of 6. So as you can imagine, armour 6 against anti-tank 12, there was a lot of damage done. 1 failed firepower, all the saves failed. 1 failed firepower, otherwise there's 3 dead here and 1 dead over there. That's kind of what I was trying to avoid with all that smoke, but couldn't put it off forever, and I have at least obliged his anti-tank guns to go here, and that might be of benefit to me, but we shall see. The reserves will definitely be turning up next turn, and I'm getting nowhere near any objectives. Romanian turn 5. So running out of time, folks. In that turn, in terms of motivation, everything was successful. That sole survivor survived. I concentrated all my movement around here. What happened in terms of shooting was the artillery on the far side on the green and blue roofed houses got hits, but I'm not killing anything, and if I can't kill anything I can't really get past those infantry. And then one single shot from a T-34 that failed a cross check managed to shoot and kill a Pak 40. That was a surprise. And then over here the infantry managed to launch an assault, and then that was the end of the Pak 40s. I had the tank there and another infantry platoon standing by in case it went horribly wrong, but these guys are just running across all this, so they're probably going to get slaughtered, and I'd imagine he won't last much longer. And there'll be Panzer 4s at least coming next turn, and I have to get within 8 inches and stay up within 8 inches. Oh, see if I can spot it. There's an Ebelwerfer sitting on top of it. That point there. Next turn. Doesn't look very likely. Peter's turn 5, everything was fine as far as motivation goes. 3 dice for reserves, but only got 1, and they're all to come in the back edge of the table. They've moved up here to defend the objective. They didn't have very good lines of sight to shoot any of my tanks anyway. In terms of movement, these guys moved up to have a go at what used to be there. The guys died, shot to bits mainly by them, and 1 got killed by the nest. And then the Nebs ranged in here, managed to kill only 1 base. It was one of the command unit. Pinned those guys though, so that might be important, because if I can't keep moving forward and the commander is now back here because of that and they can't get a reroll, then that is actually game over, I think. So it might come down to that. So over to me then for turn 6, a critical one. I have to really get within 8 inches of an objective this turn. So critical Romanian turn 6. Whoops, sorry, getting that out of the way. That was a really intensive turn. It was really awkward. This is where the distance play gets quite difficult, because everything was over here, all the important stuff. So in terms of movement, my guys, in terms of motivation, everything was fine. And then my guys snaked up and with the help of all of these managed to get into the church, one end of the church that was empty. Cavalry bunched up a wee bit. The T-34s are all behind this house here. Then in terms of shooting, I ranged in with my artillery at the back there and didn't kill anything, but potentially pinned the Nebs. The mortars and the other 75s ranged in over here, killed one base. These guys are still getting shot at by him and survived. Then there was a big assault in here basically. And there was one base in there. I ignored him and assaulted a neb that was behind. So there was very little counter-fire. The Panzer IVs that were there couldn't shoot because of the gun. So I managed to kill the gun. It went back and forward a little bit. I lost the base, killed the German infantry, survived a hit from a Panzer IV and then killed it with a Faust. So they broke off. The nebs are out. Oh, sorry, I'm waving this camera around. The nebs are out of command. So that might end up with them breaking. I tried another assault over there with the cavalry because I've got to try something, and it just got beaten back straight away. These guys actually managed to fire their guns. 2 shots at that, 2 hits, nearly killed it, but didn't. So I'm still in the game, I'm still near that objective, but I could be potentially assaulted off it. We'll see what happens, So Peter's turn 6. So one reserve again, he's not getting the reserves on at all. It's quite hard to get it all linked up here just now, guys, but he moved his guys, he's left 2 guys up here as a blocking force, and then moved the guys towards the church and got the Panzer IVs to help, and actually shot most of the guys with MG fire before he moved in and won the assault, but he couldn't push me away from the objective. The most he could do was force the T-34 to move. It might move by itself next turn. So it wasn't enough to push me away, so I am sort of still in the game, but not with much. As far as my formation goes, I have got a single company command stand, 4 mortars, and a platoon of 1, 2, 3, 4 bases. So there's not much left. Romanian turn 7, and they're still somehow in the game. There wasn't a hell of a lot of movement in that. I actually kept these guys going to ground. I need them to be alive near the objective. One of the guns moved up, 2 are busy trying to kill that. He's sticking around. I've actually forgot about him. We've passed the records a number of checks. He's sticking around. And then my artillery, one of them ranged in beside the church on the far end there. Managed to hit some of the infantry. I managed to kill a couple of bases in there. That platoon's down to 4 now, I think, 4 bases. So it's getting whittled down. And then the only assault, these guys have been dropping artillery and whatever down here, but not getting anybody. And I've managed to get an assault in with my surviving cavalry who have now dismounted and are occupying these buildings here, but there's only 3 of them left. It's pretty grim, to be honest. But he's staying around as well, that tank. So there you go. Let's see if Peter can get me away for that bloody objective. Peter's turn 7 and the final reserves have arrived. These mortars are going to blow me up next turn. In terms of motivation, everything went swimmingly, and the infantry unpinned, which was really critical, but the Nebs managed to get back together again. So they're not testing, and they'll be firing bombardments again next turn. In terms of shooting, he concentrated as much as possible here. He moved 1 tank there to shoot at T-34s coming up the road. Didn't get a hit. He got 2 hits here, and I saved 1, and the other one was a failed firepower to kill, so he's bailed out. See if he's feeling heroic. And that was about it, really. It was these guys, and the nest, they'll help putting fire into there, as did the Panzer III. But I'm still hanging about like a bad smell. I don't know if I'll be able to do anything about taking that objective though, but we'll see. Turn 8, really? Right. So in this turn, he did not get back in the T-34, but he didn't run. Any other motivations? We're fine, apart from this wee guy with his mortar. He's packed up, said, right, I've had enough. I can't kill nests. I can hit them, but I can't kill them. He got absolutely clobbered again, but survived. The mortars... in terms of movement, so there's a wee bit of movement with tanks to get shots, line of sight and such likes. And the Romanian cavalry went up to put an assault in around here, they just had to stay. I had to be careful because of a template. I've now got 2 templates ranged in over there. And then in terms of assaulting, well, artillery first of all managed to kill a base. Assaulting killed the base. There's only 2 bases plus company command in there now. Forgot to mention last turn, to unpin them, Peter burned his lucky card. In terms of shooting, I managed to kill the Panzer 4 with 3 dice. This one here fired and missed. He couldn't obviously shoot. The guys who stayed got on the ground apart from the mortar round there, who's out of line of sight of this, but was able to drop a bombardment there. And as I maybe mentioned, those mortars didn't range in on the infantry in the open. The 75s are ranging over there. I don't know what's going to happen. We'll just wait and see. We're probably running out of time, to be honest. So this is just checking Peter's turn 8. So in this turn, these infantry moved over. They wanted to get that building and push me back. The tanks originally stayed put to shoot at these guys. These guys were ready to fire, and the Nebs were ready to fire. And that was pretty much it. So he's still alive and kicking, shooting down there, but not getting anything because my guys have stayed on the ground. So they're quite hard to hit at long range. The Panzer IVs managed to kill 1 T-34 just around the corner of that street, but they double-barreled him in the building, but he got back, he survived the double barrel. And then the artillery just didn't do anything. It wasn't very successful initial firing. These guys fired on the way in, tried an assault, but I managed to get 5 hits out of 8 dice, so I was quite lucky. Or 9 dice, but one needed a 6. And then they shooted and scooted. So I'll see if I can finally get away for that objective. I'm not very hopeful, but we'll see. So it's turned into a marathon, guys. That's turn 9. In terms of motivation, everything was fine. My build-out tank survived and even got back in. In terms of movement, I just moved my surviving cavalry guys around the back of the Nebs. Oh, and so I moved T-34s to have a go at those T-34s. And the shooting was ridiculous for the T-34s. The build-out guy killed 1, and the other 2 with just single shots managed to kill in a bale. Then these guys here got mortared, sort of artillery, a couple of bits of artillery, the mortars failed to range in, and then also direct fire that did all the damage from these guys. There's only 1 left in that platoon over there. And then I assaulted the Nebs from the back, so there was no potential for any counter fire, and it was close enough for me to capture the Panzer IV, but for the assault to end, the Romanian infantry and the churches, 3 of them, couldn't counter attack. So it's going to be there one way or another next turn, I think. Peter's turn 9 and he's getting a bit thin on the ground. He's got company command, the remains of a platoon, and these guys in the front. That's it, really, an observer. But they're staying. The infantry are not running. So in terms of shooting, it was just these guys, and I managed to kill 1 of my infantry, which means this platoon up here is going to be on a check, at least for 1 turn, whilst I get another base up into command distance. But they can start chipping away at me and doing all kind of nasty things to me. I kind of just determined to see if we can, to see who's going to kill who here, so we're just going to keep going. Folks, we have decided to call it a day, call it a draw. It's been one hell of a battle. We have fought ourselves down till there is almost nothing left. We'll go over what is left in a bit more detail, but first let's go over to a recap. So there you go, folks. It was a draw. It was a bloody draw where we both kind of worn each other down to the bone. There was just about nothing left on each side. It was a long game for us, really quite tiring, and it was really a difficult one for Peter because most of the game was happening in the furthest corner of the table from where I could get the cameras. So from the streaming viewpoint, it wasn't an easy game for Peter to plane, I think. I told him stick all the objectives over on the near side, but he didn't want to. He went for the far corner. So in terms of my list and my plan, I'm quite happy with that. Green, let's call him a green Romanian list. I could have made it more attack-minded by taking out the anti-tank guns, but then, if in a different game they could have been useful, especially if I had to defend, they could be useful. So I'll be keeping them in when I use this again. In terms of the plan, the machine gun nests, the ones that were in front of the town, they stopped me doing what I really wanted to do, which was get the cavalry charging up at the same time as the tank right behind the smoke screens. So I had to deal with them first. So that slowed me down a little bit. But my plan was really just roll out 3 smoke screens and move up behind it, hopefully getting cavalry and infantry supporting my tanks, and then just try and push through to that back objective, because I just sick of dying in minefields. Basically that's what normally happens. I'll go for the minefields and then everybody dies. So it almost went to plan. How about yourself, Peter? How did you feel about your list and your plan?
Well, I think I maybe didn't think my list out properly, because my 40-60 split wasn't easy to choose from. So I had to leave my Panzer IVs off, my 12-centimetre mortars off, and my company HQ off. So and it was delayed reserves, which meant that I could have done with them a lot earlier. And I didn't get reserves until turn 3. Or no, it was actually turn 6 because of delayed reserves. So I think maybe designing a list, I'll maybe try to make it easier for me to pick a sensible 40% to stay off. My list was good, but fairly boring. It's sort of Panzer Grenadiers. It's fairly easy to defend. You just don't do anything. You just sit tight and hopefully the attacker grinds himself down. I do like having nests. I think nests are great, either the machine gun nests or the 88 nests. I think they're very helpful because it does slow the attacker down. Machine guns, I think you dealt with the machine guns quite well, but they did slow you down, which gave me a few more turns to get my reserves in. It was an epic game. I think maybe if we'd spent another couple of hours, we might have resolved it.
Yeah, everything would be dead by then, me included.
No, it was very enjoyable, and it was good to see the Romanians out on the table again.
Yeah, well, we'll get them in a few more games, and then Hungarians. And and I think one thing about your list that I've noticed when I've been trying to put a list together for myself, see when you've got this, the careful kind of formations, the more expensive ones, I'm almost now finding that to get a good list of other supporting options, I'm having to choose between heavy machine guns or mortars. It's hard on a higher pointed list to get heavy machine guns and mortars in with your platoons of infantry that have got Fausts and Shreks and these kind of things. So it's a tricky balance.
Yes, I certainly prefer HMGs in a unit rather than having a unit of an individual unit of HMGs, because they're very brittle. If you lose a couple, then you're in last man. So as long either you bring them as nests or bring them as part of the platoon, they can maybe survive a bit longer. But then the price of that platoon quite high if you have got Shreks and Panzer Fausts and all the rest of it in with it. Yeah, it was good. Yes, right, well, enjoyed it.
Thanks for the game. I really enjoyed it. It did go on for a long time, folks, but both of us were just really determined to try and play it out because it was so close for both of us at various points just to get those victory conditions. And the assault is when you're assaulting in such a tight enclosed space, it's hard to get large numbers in, but it's also hard to get a lot of counterfire in because you could go behind buildings, and get around behind defenders and so on. So it probably took longer than it could have in that respect, because we couldn't get as many active troops involved as we'd like to have. But we were just determined that we were going to try and see a victory. But in the end, there was just nothing left.
Next time, Frank, I'll bring an armoured list, because those games tend to last a bit shorter.
They can be quicker, especially if your firepower dice are working.
Yeah.
But anyway, thanks for the game, Peter. Really enjoyed
it.
Okay.
Right, thank you.
And I'll see you again on the next one.
Bye for now.
Cheers. Let's have a look at casualties and survivors then, folks. So, Peter's Germans. That's it. The mortars that came on late, a platoon of bad spirits, company command, and the observer, which always seems to survive. You notice that in the thick of the battle, it always seems to survive. And then all these guys in losses. Quite extensive, but he held on, which is what you have to do in defence. You have to sit there and take the pain to a large degree. And this was a fairly static army with one mobile element, but not a hell of a lot of mobile opportunities. So it wasn't great for counter-attacking options. He did try it across here, as you will have seen, but didn't quite work out. Not enough support. And on my side, this is my core formation. Survivors, mortars, just about in good spirits, infantry platoon and company command. But I've also got 2 batteries of 75 mils, artillery that is, my 75 mm tank, a platoon of 2 T-34s and company command for T-34s. And then in losses, the cavalry, by the way, the final turn of the game, we tried distant assault with them, 3 bases going in, and they made it. Got 4 hits on them though, and they failed every single save, so I missed a chance just to push them away from the objective right at the end. But all gone. That's the remains of the surviving platoon. That's the dead platoon, and then you've got dead platoon of tanks, 1 of them run away, and 2 from the surviving platoon. So lots of casualties there too, especially in the elements that went forward. Everything else that stayed back, out of the way, was fine. They didn't attract a lot of flak at all in this game.